My name is Leila, and I'm 37 years old, working as a homemaker. I've been married to my husband Jimmy for 13 years now. Currently, we are living together as a family of 4 with our daughter Karin and my mother-in-law. A few years ago, after my father-in-law passed away, we started living with my mother-in-law at her place. Living with my mother-in-law in her home was anything but peaceful. Suddenly, after we moved in, she began to harass me. "Is dinner ready?" "Oh yes, it will be done shortly." "How long are you planning to make everyone wait?" While I was cooking, mother-in-law came into the kitchen and started tasting the food. "Leila, this pot roast has no flavor. It's awful." "Oh really? I thought I had seasoned it well." "How could you taste it and still have it turn out like this?" "You are really bad at cooking. Jimmy and Karin must feel so pitiful with this food." "I'm sorry." "Jimmy must be having a hard time with such a useless wife. Hurry up and set the table." She complained constantly, but never helped with preparing dinner. Mother-in-law didn't just push cooking onto me, she left all household chores to me and just lazed around the house during the day. "Dinner's ready, everyone." As the whole family sat down and started eating, Jimmy and Karin praised the pot roast that mother-in-law had earlier criticized, saying, "This pot roast is delicious." "Yeah, Mom, it's tasty." Then mother-in-law said, "Yes, indeed, the seasoning is just right." She was now saying the exact opposite of what she had said before. Despite her harassment and nasty comments to me, she always spoke kindly to Jimmy and Karin, probably not wanting them to dislike her. "Leila is really good at cooking." "Oh, thank you." In front of Jimmy and Karin, she sometimes praises me. Today, Leila did all the housework. Considering my health, she is truly a capable wife. Is that right, Leila? In truth, mother-in-law had just forced household chores onto me. "Oh, no." As I tried to deny it, mother-in-law kicked my leg under the table where no one else could see. "Ah, yes, that's true. Thanks for always being kind to my mom." Jimmy thanked me with a beaming smile, even though that wasn't the truth. I could never hide my bewilderment at mother-in-law's blatant attitude. Because of this, Jimmy never noticed that I was being harassed, and he even thought that mother-in-law and I got along well. Jimmy really cared for mother-in-law, and when father-in-law passed away, he was more concerned for her than anyone else. I couldn't bring myself to say anything bad about mother-in-law to such a loving Jimmy and had never been able to talk to him about it. Karin, being very fond of mother-in-law, was another reason why I couldn't consult anyone. When it was decided that we'd live together with my in-laws, Karin said, "Yay, I get to live with Grandma now!" and was delighted. Mother-in-law adored Karin, and they always played together, took baths together, they were very close. Taking advantage of that, mother-in-law's harassment towards me escalated. When I came back from shopping, the room was all messed up. "Hey, mother-in-law, what happened? Why is everything so scattered?" I asked, surprised, and mother-in-law answered with a smirk. "I couldn't find something, and before I knew it, it had become a mess." The house wouldn't be turned upside down just from looking for something. Mother-in-law surely did it to harass me. "Sorry, I'm going to dinner with friends now. Cleanups on you." As expected, I ended up cleaning, and mother-in-law fled the house. That day, cleaning took all day, and I couldn't do any other chores. Then mother-in-law came back home and said, "Laundry, dishes, cleaning, none of it's done." What on earth were you doing? Ha 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 ha! Holding back my anger at mother-in-law's shame, I quietly continued with the housework. Hurry up, or everyone will come home. If Jimmy realizes what an incapable wife you are, he'll surely divorce you. Mother-in-law never helped with the chores and constantly nagged and rushed me. I was getting more and more frantic as dinner was nowhere near ready. In the end, dinner was late. What? Dinner's not ready yet? I'm sorry, it will be ready soon. Just wait a bit longer. Jimmy asked, looking concerned. Are you feeling ill? No, it's not that, but... I thought about explaining why dinner was late, but when I glanced at mother-in-law, she was glaring as if to say, don't you dare. Today has been a bit hectic. Oh, I see. I'm sorry. No, it's totally fine. Mother-in-law seemed to be trying to portray me as an incapable wife who's hindered by her, hoping Jimmy would get fed up and divorce me. But Jimmy is so kind that instead of blaming me, he was even worried about me. Mother-in-law didn't find this amusing, and her daily harassment towards me only escalated. Lately, it's not just about the harassment towards me. She started interfering with Karin's affairs. You two seem to be trying to get Karin into a private middle school. Yes, we are. Is there a problem with that? It's cruel to make her study late every night for exams. Stop it right now. Well, we are not going to stop just because you said so. Karin herself has expressed a desire to go to a private middle school. We are not forcing her to study and go against her will. Kids should just play and have fun. There is no need to force them to study now. But working hard now will open up more options for her future, and Karin wants this. You are not doing it for Karin. You are forcing it on her, aren't you? That's not true. Lately, as Karin has been studying at night and attending tutoring, our time together has decreased, and mother-in-law seemed displeased. Just give up on the middle school exams. It's a waste of time. I couldn't hold back my anger at this command. I was furious at mother-in-law for disrespecting Karin's feelings and only saying selfish things. Isn't it normal to support Karin when she wants to do this? What? How dare you talk back? Mother-in-law was quite surprised as I had never talked back before. Karin's exams have nothing to do with you, mother-in-law. What do you mean, nothing to do? I'm her grandmother. Feeling like arguing would get us nowhere, I left saying, enough of this, I'm going to pick up Karin. Mother-in-law continued to harass me in front of Jimmy and Karin, seemingly unable to let go of me talking back. Today's dinner looks plain. Is this all we have? I guess she must have been furious with me. You can't even think about feeding a growing child? I'm sorry. Finally, Jimmy couldn't just listen in silence and snapped at mother-in-law. Come on, Mom, don't complain about the meal that Layla made. His anger ignited. Jimmy had mother-in-law flustered. She quickly backpedaled. Oh, I'm sorry. That's not what I meant to say. Not wanting to start another fight, I brushed it off with, it's fine. After dinner, while I was washing dishes, mother-in-law came over and muttered, remember this, and went back to her room. From then on, every day was filled with fear, wondering what she might do next. Then, one day, it was the day of Karin's acceptance announcement. We headed to the venue, all nerves. When we checked the bulletin board, Karin's number was clearly written there. You did it, Karin! Awesome, you got accepted! Yay! We were all overjoyed. Karen had been studying without a break for months. Thanks to her efforts, she had passed the middle school exams. We have to celebrate today. Yes, Karen, what would you like to eat? Steak! Steak was Karen's absolute favorite. Should we order delivery today? Hooray! On my way home, I called the steakhouse and ordered a luxurious steak for delivery. We also decided to buy a cake, so I made a small detour on my way home, asking my mother-in-law to receive the steak delivery at the house. When I called mother-in-law, she said, "Understood, I'll take care of it." Because of various detours, we were completely past lunchtime by the time we got home. I'm starving. I want to eat the steak now. You're right, we're late. The steak should be here, so let's eat plenty. Okay. When we arrived home, we just ran into mother-in-law's friends as they were leaving. They all said in unison, "Thanks for the feast," and left, making me wonder what was going on. I had a bad feeling and rushed into the house. The delivered steak was all messed up on the table. Mother-in-law, did you eat the steak? Oh, if it's a delivery steak, I enjoyed it with my friends at a luncheon. You'll pay for it later. What are you doing? When I yelled at mother-in-law, she replied, "You were probably planning to order delivery and slack off from housework. I won't allow that." This was to celebrate Karen's success. Success celebration? What success? I had told mother-in-law in advance that today was Karen's exam acceptance announcement. She seemed to have forgotten because she hadn't listened to me. Karen and Jimmy arrived late. Karen had heard our conversation in the corridor and was crying. Grandma's so mean. Karen had been excited to report to Grandma quickly, but to think that she didn't even remember the acceptance announcement day. I thought it was understandable for Karen to cry. Mom, today was Karen's middle school acceptance announcement. How could you forget such an important day? That's awful. Mother-in-law seemed unable to hide her agitation. What? Today? Layla, why didn't you tell me earlier? I did tell you. I was too stunned to even feel angry. Karen worked hard and got accepted, so we were going to celebrate by eating her favorite steak. To think you'd eat it with your friends, I can't believe it. No, it wasn't like that. I really didn't know. You didn't know? I called you about the delivery, didn't I? That's... Mom, did you eat it on purpose? On purpose? You say? Mother-in-law's face turned paler and paler, and she began to sweat. She was desperately trying to think of an excuse, but seemed to have no words to say. I've suspected this for a while, but you really are harassing Layla, aren't you? It seems Jimmy had a vague idea of what was going on. But since I didn't talk to him about it, he just watched the situation. Suddenly, mother-in-law approached Karen and said, I'm sorry. Let's all go to the steakhouse. I'll pay. Karen responded, I hate Grandma. She pushed mother-in-law away and ran to her room. The shock of being hated by her beloved granddaughter seemed to be tremendous, and mother-in-law froze after falling on her bottom. After that, I told Jimmy everything about how mother-in-law had been harassing me. Why didn't you tell me sooner? I couldn't say anything when I thought about you and Karen. I'm sorry for forcing you all this time. You don't have to endure it anymore. Jimmy suggested that we move to make sure I wouldn't be harassed anymore. Since Karen also said she didn't want to live with mother-in-law anymore, we were able to leave the house without worry. Thank you. On moving day, while I was packing, mother-in-law came into the room. Are you really leaving the house? Mother-in-law's face looked like she was about to cry. Yes, you must be glad to be away from me, whom you hate. I don't exactly hate you. Can you please leave? You are in the way of my packing. As I tried to drive mother-in-law out of the room, she suddenly began to plead. Please don't leave. I'll apologize for everything, please. I can't bear to be apart from Karen. Karen also says she doesn't want to live with you. No matter how much I explained, mother-in-law wouldn't let go, clinging and crying. So I made a proposal. Actually, we are moving to my parents' house. If you really can't bear to be apart from Karen, will you come with us? My father is very stern, with a scary face. I knew mother-in-law knew that, so I said it a bit maliciously, thinking she would never agree, but surprisingly, I understand, that's fine with me. I was stunned that she agreed. It seems mother-in-law wanted to be with Karen that badly. Since she wouldn't harass me in front of my parents, and if she did, I could report it to my father, I agreed to live together. Jimmy said, Sorry, if something happens with my mom coming along, feel free to kick her out. So we all moved to my parents' house, and the cohabitation began. My father seemed dissatisfied with mother-in-law came with us. Of course, he knew how mother-in-law had harassed me and ruined Karen's celebration. He didn't blame her directly, but his silent pressure kept mother-in-law shrinking. She spoke less, seemed downcast. Whenever my mother and I asked for help with housework, she readily complied and worked hard. I couldn't help but laugh at her changed appearance. Life went on without any incidents for a while, but finally, mother-in-law reached her limit and yelled, I'm sick of this house! My father is intimidating, and Karen still can't get through to him. I think Jimmy's attitude towards mother-in-law has become colder because he couldn't endure various things anymore. Karen, let's go home together. Mother-in-law tried to forcibly pull a resistant Karen and leave the house. Mother-in-law, stop it! Can't you see Karen doesn't want to go? It's better to be with me than in this house. At that moment, my father arrived. What are you doing? Knock it off! Frightened by my father's forceful yell, mother-in-law froze in fear. I allowed you to live with us because you said you didn't want to be apart from your granddaughter. But if you try to take Karen against her will, I'll call the police for kidnapping. I didn't mean to... that way. Hearing my father's shout, Jimmy also rushed over. Mom, what are you doing? Just leave us. We can't be bothered by you anymore. I'm cutting ties completely. No way. Then Karen shook off mother-in-law's hand and screamed, Get out! Even mother-in-law seemed shocked by this, dropping her shoulders and leaving the house in tears. Now she's back at her house, living a lonely life. Afterwards, mother-in-law became reclusive. and it seems that even neighbors and friends have started keeping their distance. On the other hand, our family is living peacefully every day. Karen is studying hard at a private school every day, and Jimmy has become very friendly with my parents, especially my father, with whom he drinks every day. I wish I had talked to Jimmy earlier and moved to my parents' house.